What's up, Punks on Hope? Before we get started, I wanted to give a little bit of a content warning. In this episode, we interview Tim Spock, who is the author of Drunk Punk Recovery. And Tim Spock, he served 12 years in prison for 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter. And in this interview, we find him in transitional living. And so we're not doing this interview to celebrate the harm that was created, but to really understand the causes of this harm so we can end it. So please be gentle with yourself. Peace and love. Welcome to the Punks on Hope podcast, where we talk about the intersection between punk rock and recovery and mental health and all that sweet stuff. My name is Mikey. I'm joined with my co-host, Joe Clements.
Hello, hello.
What's up? How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing all right. A little busy morning being an Uber driver for my kid and his friends to the point where none of them would sit in the front. They're all in the back of my car. It's like, all right, and then can we pick up my friend over here? And it's like, what the hell? But yeah, I'm good. I'm stoked to be here. Stoked to meet and have a conversation with Tim Spock. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. You want to get to it?
I do. Yeah. How about you, Tim? You ready?
Yeah. I'm ready to go whenever you guys are. Yeah.
Let's fucking do it. We got a guest today, our first ever guest on Punks on Hope. And we got Tim Spock.
Brave person, Tim.
Oh, yeah.
So let me give at least a little hint of introduction before, we let you take over. So maybe not that long ago, maybe a year ago, I ended up getting this zine that, this zine.
Oh, yeah.
Drunk Punk, getting sober without gods or masters by the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Spock. And I was like so stoked on this. And then eventually... I found you on Instagram, or you found me on Instagram, and then we started following each other. And out of nowhere, you were like, "Hey, you do interviews on your podcast, a podcast that hasn't even been released yet." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it!" So welcome
of course we do.
Punks on Hope. Congratulations!
Yeah, it's really great. It's really great to be here. Yeah. I can't explain the gratitude that I have. I got out of prison about a month ago, and right off the bat, so many things have happened, and I've talked to so many people, and it's been great. It's been really great, and thank you for having me here.
Yeah,
just want to say that. Yeah, both of you.
And it's like you got hell of a story. Maybe, as we're stepping in, not the whole story, but just maybe the elevator pitch of who you are.
I mean, I'd like to think I always say that I had a pretty normal upbringing when I was a kid. I was just a kid from the suburbs, but fell in love with music, especially punk rock, and did all the things that you do when you're a punk rocker in high school, and went to shows and starts out drinking 40s in the parking lot and stuff. And I didn't know any better, but I couldn't do things like my friends could do. And it should have become pretty obvious right off the get-go, but I didn't want to hear any of it. I had different results than my friends did when I would drink and use drugs, and didn't really notice anything about that until about 12 years ago. But I ended up hooking up with a band from Cleveland. I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Beatnik Termites, but they're this pop, the Ramones meet the Beach Boys. That's
were my arena.
Guys.
Beatnik Termites all day.
Livid. I like me some
pop
punk, but this guy is living.
I like pop punk back then.
Like what?
I can't back then, back in the early 90s. I can't really speak too much about pop punk nowadays, but
what's your jam nowadays? What do you rock nowadays?
Shoot, I've been listening. I keep on listening to Pinhead Gunpowder. That's my thing. That's my thing.
Isn't that Billy Joe Armstrong's
band
before?
Yeah, and it's Aaron Comet Bus plays drums in it too. So it's been really cool.
Right.
Did you like the new album?
Oh no!
I've only heard it a couple times because I didn't have access to it when I was in prison. But what I've heard, it's kind of like on the mediocre side. I don't want to offend anybody
Yeah.
by like
Yeah,
saying
no,
that, but
fair,
like
fair.
everything else that they released prior to that just blows my mind. Like not one bad song in it at all.
Yeah.
So
Well, I know we're going on a tangent here, but I think it
yeah,
is very important to talk about the new Pinhead Gunpowder album.
I mean
What
it
I
is.
think
It
about it.
is.
Uh,
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so the
I
big
like that.
thing,
I like that. It's interesting to me, like, yeah, total pop punk or whatever you're into, and then where you're at now. Because for me too, it ebb and flow, so it kind of gives a little bit of personality and stuff like that. Yeah.
I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm losing my importance of my opinion on the new Pinhead Gunpowder album.
Yeah, please,
I have
please unleash it.
one very obvious gripe is the production of it. That I
Mm,
think the looseness of Pinhead Gunpowder, especially like Aaron Cometbus's drumming, it's very obvious that all of their albums aren't recorded with a click, and then the new one is very tight and very,
Yeah,
long
yeah,
with a
that's
click. And I think they tried too hard on the new one. I wanted a little bit more looseness like the other ones.
I think I think a lot of that happens, or that happens a lot of times with bands that put out, more than 3 albums. Like they continue making music because they want to and their intentions are good, but somewhere along the line, like the spirit of it just kind of like falls off, and they even though they may not intend it, it ends up sounding like they're making music just for the sake of making music, not because that's really what they felt like at that moment. I kind of get that from that record too. Yeah, I do.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you so going back.
Sorry about that.
What year is this? You're touring with great
This is
band
probably
Beatnik
this is
Termites.
probably about 98, 99.
Mhm.
And they were releasing a record out on Recess Records with Todd from FYP. So the goal was, God, I'm going to date myself here. The goal was to get out to San Pedro, California, because Recess Records was going to release a compilation video of all the bands that they had. Like for those of you who are born prior to 1988, like that's what record labels used to do. They used to release compilation videos of all the bands, and you'd buy them and put it in. Yeah, it was great. So I was the roadie for them. I sold the merch and drove the van, and when they were recording the video, we were in San Pedro for about a month, and I was the roadie, so I didn't really have anything to do with the video. So I just basically day drank all day. I sat on the porch and went and got 40s, and then yeah, we went to parties. And this, you got to remember too, this is back in the time where like Green Day was blowing up and Rancid and the Offspring. So like every punk band thought they were going to get signed. So like we were getting like passports because Lookout Records had like interest in them, and we were going to tour Europe and stuff. And obviously none of that happened. But so we got back from tour, and they're gonna go out on the west side and or on the east coast to support Marky Ramone.
Cool.
And I had reunited with a person from my past in a romantic way, and I was like, yeah, you guys just go. I'm gonna stay here. And throughout the next like 10 years or whatever, that was basically the story of my life, just like bouncing around from person to person and house to house and trying to find my way like in the world all the time, drinking and using drugs when they were around and stuff like that. And I had a kid along the way, and I tried really hard to like settle down then. Like I shaved the mohawk, and I shopped at Old Navy, and like my child's mother was like a normal person, and I mean she wasn't into the same things that I was into. And yeah, I couldn't do it. Like I had this image in my head of like this rock star who just gets wasted and does whatever they wanted, and that's what I thought punk rock was at the time. I know now that was like a misconception, but that's what I thought I was supposed to do. I'm a 28-year-old person that's delivering pizzas in Euclid, Ohio, and I'm thinking that I'm a rock star by drinking 40s in my basement while my pregnant girlfriend is upstairs asleep. Like it's so fucked up to think about it like this now. But yeah, that's what I thought punk rockers did. And so we had the child, and I didn't alter my ways at all. I got back into drinking and using drugs and all this crap. So she ended up leaving me, but then when she left me, the person she got with after me ended up being a heroin user, so she got into that. she got justice involved. I don't know if you probably are familiar with that term, but that's the new way to say she got busted. So she got justice involved doing junky stuff like, stealing credit cards and passing bad checks and that kind of stuff. So I ended up being a single dad for about 2 years, and that was really cool. I formed a really great bond with my son. Um, but then I fucked up. She got out of jail, and she straightened her life up, and then I fucked up, and I caught a charge, and I lost custody of him, and she took custody back. Like the stuff that I put my child through, like he doesn't know because he was like an infant at the time, but like the stuff that like he went through, like the instability of it all is just like is mind-boggling now, and I'll be saddled with that guilt, the rest of my life probably. But he's cool. He doesn't care. We still have a good relationship now. But yeah, and then once she took custody of it, like I didn't look at it like I was like punished in any way. I looked at it like I was free now. Like I didn't have to like be the single dad. So I moved to an area right outside of Cleveland called Lakewood, and that's where there are more people like me there, like punk rockers, and there were shows every night in bars. So I started booking bands for bars and clubs around Cleveland at the time, and yeah, things were going great for about 2 years, and then as you guys probably know, I mean, shit doesn't get better if you leave it untreated. And so the problems got worse and more frequent. Bands started to not want to do business with me. Bars were the same. Like I was getting, I don't want to say like blacklisted, but like, certain, you can tell when people are just politely saying like, get the fuck out of here,
Yeah.
So yeah, that sort of happened more frequently. But of course, as an addict, like it was never my fault. And eventually I caused a fatal crash. I took the lives of two people driving while I was intoxicated, and I got sentenced to 15 years in prison. And that was I'd never been in any sort of trouble that I could never get out of. Like I was in and out of law and on probation my whole adult life, and had a suspended driver's license probably half of my adult life. But it always ended. Like I always was able to get out of it by paying a fine or whatever. But this time that wasn't going to happen. So I was thrown in prison, and man, that was a humbling experience, and I needed to be humbled. I really did. Nobody in prison gave a fuck that I toured with the Beatnik Termites or that I knew all the bartenders in Cleveland or like whatever. No one cared about that shit. So yeah. And then I realized I was in an IOP group, intensive outpatient group, and these people were talking about their problems, man, and I was like, man, I never like shot dope. Like I never held a gun in my life. I never robbed anybody. Like I'm not like these people. Like what I did was just an accident, Like I was that kind of person at the time. Like the first three, I never did anything. I was clean the whole time I was in prison, but I wasn't in recovery like the first 3 years, if that makes sense to you guys. You guys probably know that. You probably know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I stood up and I told the people, I was like, I don't fucking belong here. Like, you guys are crazy, And the one guy that was speaking at the time, he's like, well, I never killed anyone. And like, that was my like aha moment. Like, I was like, here I am. I did something way worse than any of these people did. And I'm doing more time than anybody in the room right now. And I'm sitting there and I'm judging them. And I think that I'm better than them. And so then, I'm getting like goosebumps talking about it now. Yeah. But then that's when I asked for help, because being justice involved, of course I was mandated to 12-step groups my entire life pretty much, and I hated it. I'm an atheist. It's not that I have a different sense of spirituality. I don't have a sense of spirituality. It's a whole like weird thing for me. It's kind of depressing if I talk about it too much, but like, yeah, I think that you just get this time on this earth and that's it. I think that the things that happen in my life, bad and good, are based off of decisions that I make. And that doesn't jive really with the 12-step methodology, really. And so people try to explain it. They're like, oh, well, your higher power doesn't have to be God. It could be like your cup of coffee in the morning. And I'm like, no, that's stupid. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And it's not that it's stupid, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, my brain doesn't work that way, And so I had a counselor while I was in prison. There are some people that work for the prison system that are good and decent people and actually want to help people. And I had a counselor that printed up a bunch of different ways for recovery and like AA agnostic groups, and I had a atheist 12 steps that I followed along. And so I threw myself in it, and it was like the weirdest thing because I stopped taking things personally. Like 7 of the 12 steps mention God specifically. Like they throw in there, of your understanding, so as not to offend anybody, but I know what they're talking about. But I stopped taking that stuff personally though. And I started to like listen to what people were saying instead of hating what I was hearing. Like I actually started to listen and take in things, and people were happy. This dude came in from the outside to give a lead, and he apologized for not coming in the last month. And he was like, "Oh, I was on a cruise." And I was like, "What the fuck do sober people do on cruises? Like that's the whole point of taking a cruise, because everything's included. Like, what do you do there? And I started noticing that all these people, like that, nobody came in and said how they got sober and their life got worse. Nobody said that, they started going to prison more when they got sober, or, that people started hating them more, or their wife, it seemed like it was a better way to live your life. So I started taking things seriously. I started chairing meetings, even though like it wasn't really what I was doing. I worked the 12 steps. I helped people get through the 12. I won't say I ever sponsored someone, but I helped people get through the 12 steps. And then I sent I'm sorry if this is taking too long or I'm rambling. You guys could edit whatever's out. But
this is great.
Okay. All right. Feel free to like jump in or ask questions too. But I wrote something. It was 3 pages long. It was called "One Was Never Enough." And I mailed it into Razor Cake magazine. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Razor Cake magazine, but a lot of the issues they feature are one punk's guide to something. It'll be like gardening or bike riding or the Middle Ages or something like that.
One punk's guide to gardening. I'm down. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty cool feature that they do.
Amazing.
The last issue that I got, they had one punk's guide to pickleball now, so even that's infiltrating its way into the punk rock now.
Right.
But so I like sent it in, and it was like, it's so funny to think of it now. It's just like a handwritten on 3 sheets of notebook paper, mailing it into a magazine. And they actually responded, and they were like, we're not sure if we're the right platform for this, but if you could have someone type it and email it to us, like here's our format requirements. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was able to get my brother-in-law to do it at the time. And, Dale from Razor Cake responded, either Dale or Daryl. I always get those two confused, but responded, we're not sure if we're going to use this. We may use it on our digital platform, but thank you for contributing. And so I was looking through a Razor Cake magazine. I noticed Microcosm Publishing, and I knew Joe Beal, the proprietor of Microcosm, because I grew up with him. Well, not grew up, but we were friends through high school and a little bit before he moved to Portland. And so I mailed it to him, and I was like, look, I told him my story, and I was like, I don't know if you could use this or add this to something that you're putting out, because Microcosm, they're all about empowering and like self-improvement and stuff like that. So I was like, I don't think that this is talked enough about in the music community, specifically punk rock. And I felt like I couldn't be the only one that kind of put my recovery on hold, because I didn't think it was going to be possible for me to recover because of my belief system, And I was like, if you want, you can use this. I don't care. And he wrote back, and he was like, hey, it's good to hear from you. It'd been like 20 years since we talked. And he's like, I'd like to turn this into a zine. So he assigned me an editor, and I would write shit down and I'd mail it out, and then they'd type it up and they'd put like little questions like in the margin, like describe what you were feeling at this moment, or like something like that. And I'd rewrite it and mail it back. And that went on for about a year and a half. And then that's what ended up in the drunk punk scene that you have. And so, I mean, it was super cool. I couldn't imagine, like, people were asking me, like, well, how did you get your book published? And I was like, you can't just send a handwritten manuscript into any publishing company. Like, nobody's going to do that. Like, they're not going to open it, Yeah. And so I was fortunate, like, in that matter. And then I was thinking, I was like, I'd like to make, like, a step working guide, like NA and AA uses. Yeah. So if people want to use this as a program of recovery, they can, and I can explain things a little bit better. So I made the workbook. And then I made when COVID hit, like I know COVID was messed up for everybody, but in prison it was really a strange time. Like the National Guard was like running the dorms and stuff like that, and yeah, like we were in our cells for like 23 hours a day, some days, and like stuff like that because we're communal living,
Yeah.
so like you couldn't stop a spread. Like if I had COVID, my bunkie was getting COVID for
Yeah, for
sure
sure. Yeah.
because we're in a 6x9 room together, so like you couldn't prevent that. They at one point they had us trying to sleep foot to head. So if the top bunk was sleeping this way, the bottom bunk, I'm like, this
That's
is
gonna work.
stupid,
Yeah.
guys. Like, yeah, that's not going to work. Like, you don't have to be a scientist to
Exactly.
figure that out. So
Wow.
and I saw like all these like celebrities like saying like how being locked up or being trapped in their houses is like, so traumatizing to them. I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is our life pretty much like in
Yeah.
prison, and it's even worse now. So I didn't want people to feel sorry for us, but I just wanted people to know that, there's a lot of messed up stuff going on,
Yeah.
and like, so I wrote a zine about being in prison during COVID. And then now I'm writing more about like the brain chemistry and, theories about addiction. And the last thing I put out, The War on Addiction, that's more of like the harm reduction approach to
Yeah.
recovery. It's actually my favorite thing that I wrote. Because I read these things, and because of the situation, how I was doing it, mailing it back and forth, those zines take a while to come out. So when I'm reading it for the first time, the finished version, that's the first time I read it for like 2 years,
Oh wow.
So
After you
it's
submitted it.
like, yeah. So it's like kind of weird to like read
Yeah.
it in its entirety. And I was like, God, I sound really smart. Like I can't believe I wrote this. Like I'm reading shit that I didn't remember that I wrote. But everybody, and I just want, this could be like a mini shout out to Microcosm. Like they've been great. They've been great the whole time. I couldn't imagine any other publishing company doing this, and taking the time, and they really started to believe in like what I was doing after the first zine and stuff. And it's great to have people like that behind you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
I,
so that's
I'm curious.
basically where I'm at now.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, I just, um, Mikey just turned me on to you to introduce me to your world, and
Hmm.
I listened. I did my research and
Okay.
listened to a podcast. I forget what podcast you sent me, Mikey, but it was really
Oh, with
cool.
Shauna.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
Shauna from
super
World
cool, and
Living.
just
Yeah.
really
Hmm.
interested in the books. I want to read through your books, and the one I both of them, the harm reduction, I think is so spot on. And something you said was that yeah, something needs to change in like the shame around what
Hmm.
relapse or of not smoking meth, but you're smoking weed, and it's just like there's so much shame around that and
Hmm.
I really I want to read that, and I want to ask you more about that. But one thing I want to ask about your recovery book, the what did you call it? What is it? What is the book you
Drunk, drunk punk.
Drunk Punk is a zine, right? But you did one that
Yeah.
like a workbook.
Oh yeah. It's actually called the Drunk Punk Workbook.
Oh, it is. Oh, cool. The Drunk Punk workbook. What do you
Yeah,
feel
I'm pretty good at making titles.
what and I can totally relate to, the 12-step model and
Hmm.
just everything around, but it saved me in the beginning for sure. And
Oh
I
yeah.
needed that. But then it kind of turned me on. It sounds like it turned you on to what works for you and
Hmm.
you can apply to your recovery in your words. And I'm curious, what is that for you? What is some of the through lines of recovery that, are in your book maybe, or just like, really important to you?
Well, see, I'm glad that you asked that because this is like the crux that I've been approaching these last couple of years. Because like I've been sober for 12 and a half years, but it's all been under the umbrella of the criminal
Yeah.
justice system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the challenges I'm gonna meet, like even now, like I'm free-ish. I'm freedom adjacent, but I'm in a halfway house. Like I can't like come and go as I please and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Um, but so like the challenges I'm going to get are going to be different than they were when I was in prison. So the biggest thing for me personally has been keeping active and engaging with people and helping people. That's why
Yeah.
I brought up to Mikey about the interview, because I was once again very fortunate. I had a friend that started this Instagram page for me, and through the last like 4 years, like 3 different people, including my kid, had like taken turns at like running it. And it was just me like posting motivational thoughts or song lyrics that have to do with recovery. But now that I'm out and I'm the one that's at the helm, like I want to do a more personalized thing. I want to reach out to more of the people that were following. Like I do go through the posts and I see people who are liking, more of the stuff. And I contact them and I'm like, is there anything you want to talk about? I just would like to know more about these people that have been following me and things like that, because it's really interesting to me. And I think that the way that we were fed what recovery should look like, at least me, because I've been involved in recovery ever since I can remember, probably since I was like 17 and I was first, sanctioned to go to meetings. I think the way that we're forced it is obscene, to say the least.
Yeah.
Like it's basically said, you do this
Yep.
or there's nothing else.
Yep.
Like that's the experience that I had. I'm sure that's not the same for everybody, but that's the experience that I had. And I'm not saying that that's why I never got into recovery prior. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying like maybe things would have had a different outcome, or maybe I would have had or stopped and listened a little bit more had there been something like peer support back then.
Sure.
Or harm reduction, or like the definition of recovery mentions, and it's not my definition, it's a definition from OMAS, the Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services. They say it's living a self-motivated life, improving your health and wellness, and or self-directed life, improving your health and wellness, and I always forget the third thing, but there's a third thing. But the interesting thing, the reason why I bring that up, yeah, it's definitely 3. I'm sure I'll remember before this is over, but the reason why I bring that up is because it mentions nothing about drugs or alcohol.
Right.
It mentions nothing about stopping using.
Yep.
It just, if you could smoke crack and lead a self-directed life and improve your health and wellness, then you're in recovery. I don't know many people that could.
Yeah.
But at the same time, but I say that because the thought that somebody can't return to moderation or can't substitute, like if someone's shooting dope and now they smoke weed, like that's recovery to me. They're not going to kill themselves. They're not going to commit crimes for weed. And, most people would be able to hold a job.
I feel that. Yeah. And I feel that, with that whole topic, I feel like that, continuing to do, I think real recovery is true self-discovery. So it's doing the therapy, that's why I like the Buddhist practice so much, is because it's really internal, like self-empowering, and you're getting to the causes and conditions rather than just the conditions. I mean, and I think that, for a lot of reasons I turned to drugs and alcohol because I needed it, and it really helped me in the beginning until it didn't, right? It's like helped me just
That's
feel like
exactly
I
right.
belonged, I fit in, whatever it was. But I had to get later in life to those underlying issues, like right when I started using or pre-using, right? And then I don't think we heal those, but we can have a different relationship to them and have more.
That's a great point. That's a great point, because one of the problems I had with 12 steps is one of the steps says we're ready for God to remove these shortcomings. And I was like, why not make that the only fucking step then? Like, let's just do that. Because
I realize no one's taking anything away. I can just be with it in a different way.
Well, if I'm going to jump in and throw my perspective on addiction, that I do find that like works of Gabor Mate, where we understand that trauma is really the root of addiction, and how we can all day say what's wrong about addiction, but we want to emphasize what's right about addiction. And what's right about addiction, it gives us temporary relief from
it serves a purpose
activations of trauma. And
until it doesn't.
It's, it just, you never get enough of something that almost works. It just doesn't fully work, right? And so when we have these implicit memories that are living in us that are like hard to understand, hard to live with, and our gut is collapsing and our palms are sweating and we just feel like shit, and then drugs will make me feel better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But then when we set aside the drugs, we're left with this open wound. And that's why things like the 12 steps work.
Yeah.
Because you're around other people talking about their feelings.
Yeah, I'm not, I
but
don't
that's
ever
why
want to
therapy-
sound like I'm against that.
Well, I'm not a 12 stepper.
I'm not hearing that. Yeah.
Like I'm 13 years clean and sober, and I'll go to a 12-step meeting, but I'm outside of the 12 steps. So
that's kind of like
this
how
is
I
me
am
outside
too.
saying thank you 12 steps, but yeah, do something else. And to understand that there is an evolution in our own recovery, and that's why I like you talk about the Buddhist stuff, recovery dharma. If you look at
I've actually heard of that.
Yeah, Recovery Dharma book it talks about trauma and attachment wounds as a core to addiction. Yeah. And if we want to set aside the addictions, it's necessary to face some of those underlying feelings, of trauma and attachment wounds. And I just think that's just more modern language if you're talking about God and spirituality and stuff like that not fitting. And it's like, well, there's also science,
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like from what I've read and what I've experienced personally, the drugs aren't the problem, and that's what you guys are saying. The drugs do what they're going to do. Like, obviously, if you buy a pill that you think is Percocet and it's plus fentanyl, like, yeah, that's different. But most of the time, I know how to get fucked up. Like, that's the goal and that's what's going to happen, but it's what happens to me when that happens. Like that's the part that I never understood is like why I could sit next to somebody at the bar and be drink for drink with them. Like say me and my brother went to the bar, like we'd sit there and same upbringing, same household and everything like that, same opportunities in life. And I could match him drink for drink and he'll go home and kiss his wife and crawl into bed and he'll be hungover the next day. I'd go home and I'd, chase my wife with a chef knife around the kitchen and stab it into the wall and, like that. So like, that's the part that I never understood. And that's the part that was never explained to me. And that's the part that I had to find out, and it's exactly what you said. It's almost like replacement therapy, lack of coping skills. Like what are you lacking in your life? And it's not like that for everybody. Some people like to get fucked up, like that's just how it is. But at the same time, the people that usually have problems or at least ongoing problems, I'm not talking about just problematic usage or like a heavy drinker. I'm talking about people that, don't quit even though they really, really should. There is something lacking and there is something deeper that they need to address, like I wasn't diagnosed with any mental health issues until I was in prison either.
Right. Yeah. There's
so
that.
So that was the thing. I had a problem with myself. And, if I would never say anything like prison saved my life because I hated every second that I was there. And, I think that it's even statistically, you have a greater chance of recovery or as good of a chance at recovery than you do if you're mandated to a treatment just by doing it on your own and being with loving, supportive people, But at the same time, like if I wasn't pulled away from the life I was living, I have no idea what I'd be like now. I have no idea what I'd be like now. So, I mean, like you've seen my mugshot that's in the first zine. Like people don't even think that it's me. So,
Is this the one? Can we see it?
Yeah.
Wow.
There's that side by side.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
What's that like looking at that? That's
I mean, yeah, like I yelled at my kid. I was like, "Why didn't you tell me I looked like that? What's wrong? Why'd you let me walk around like that?" But then again, I think that's another issue that we have with helping people that are in addiction is I think that people around them sometimes are too afraid to bring stuff up.
Sure.
They're too afraid to point out like, "Hey, maybe you shouldn't do that," until it's too late, So I think that this it's just a huge issue, and that's why it's so like. It's not only personal to me, but it's really interesting to me, like why one of the greatest books I read was called Addiction Solution, and it was by Lloyd Sedaris. And he said if we want to find out, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, but he said if we want to find out why some people struggle with drugs and alcohol, we have to find out why some people don't struggle with drugs. And I was like, that like blew my mind right there.
I
I
like
was like,
that.
that
Yeah,
makes so much sense,
it
you
does.
know?
Yeah.
And yeah, and he also said in his book, he said that he said that we have to deal with an uncomfortable truth that drugs work really well.
Yeah.
That's why people want to do them. That's why people will always want to do them. We're never going to get rid of people. Like abstinence is great. I'm gonna abstain. Like I know that I can't use. I'm well aware of that, but that's never going to happen for everybody. So
Yeah.
trying to make people stop using drugs isn't the solution. And that's where we've been the last 80 years. And I
Yeah.
think that now, like last year was the first year in 15 years, I think that overdoses went down
Mhm.
nationally. So yeah, I mean, not by a whole lot. It's still horrible, but at the
But a
same
blip.
time,
Yeah.
like I think we're turning a corner and we have a chance to like really gain some ground now because you go anywhere. I just walked around down the west side of Cleveland for 3 hours today, and almost any store that I stopped that's like my little joy when I'm in this halfway house is I get a pass to do like a 20
So
minute
good.
chore and I'm just walking around for 3 hours because I haven't been out and about in so long. But
Yeah.
like any store
That
I
little bit of
stopped into
freedom
has
is
like a
so good.
narc. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm
Yeah.
just walking around the town with a big grin on my face.
Yeah.
But any store that you stop into has like a little Narcan station there now. And I think that that's because I know people that have overdosed while they're in Drug Mart or CVS or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, so I think that's great.
Yeah.
And the prison that I just left, you get a Narcan set when you leave there.
Oh
You
wow.
get a Narcan and you get fentanyl testing strips. So I thought
Oh
like
wow.
That's great.
things like that are gonna
Yeah, let's
save
not
people's
hide it. Like
lives.
you can't, you're not going to do anything, right? It's like most
Yeah.
likely people are, and
hmm
thing that like it's coming to my mind, if you don't mind me asking, the cause the conditions that happened from your behaviors that ended you up in prison, gnarly. And I can
Yeah.
imagine being in prison with that and waking up because you probably were in such a fog and like, whoa, this is what happened, and then turning your life into recovery and being of service is that there's such an alchemy in that. But I'm curious
hmm
of what do you think? And you talked about I have an idea of what this may be, but what do you think kept you clean through that? It must have been so difficult, and with all the emotions, all the stuff that was there in prison. What do you think were
Yeah.
some of the self-reflection stuff that you really had to work with?
Well, that's a good question. Like, I'll never, ever truly get rid of the guilt that I have. Like, for
Yeah,
the pain that I caused the victims, for the pain that I caused my family, I'll carry that with me the rest of my life. I'm far from a victim. I'm far from a victim, but at the same
yeah,
time, like, I have to deal with that. I have to deal with what I did. It's not going to change. People are still going to be angry with me to this day. There was a mention on Facebook a week before I got released. Somebody I didn't even know posted my picture and said, "This asshole's getting out." Can you believe it?
yeah.
So I mean, that's always going to be there. I'm about to start a support group here in Cleveland, and we're going to advertise it. And I'm a little apprehensive about that
Sure,
because I don't
sure.
want people showing up there. That's why I like to meet people from outside of this area because you know, I don't want to offend people by
Sure.
what I did. Because to be a 100% honest man, they could think whatever they want about me. They 100% can. And they have every right to do that. What I did was unexcusable, and I'm never going to try and make it up because I can't.
Yep.
I can't. There's nothing I can do. And so if they want to forgive me, that's great. If they want to, still wish me bad things, then they're more than welcome to do that too. There's nothing I can do to right that wrong. But at the same time, I think what you're getting is how do I move on from there? Because that's real heavy shit.
Yeah, I don't know.
And
Move on, right? They were even saying you
well,
can't
yeah,
really move on from that, but to be with,
go on.
to be, I think what you're saying too. And I'm sorry for interrupting, but
No,
like
it's okay.
the guilt part, I think is important. There's a healthy sense of guilt, right? It's like
hmm
it's when it goes into that shame spiral, and what I was kind of thinking, and what it sounds like is that the forgiveness, and you talked about it on the podcast, like
Yeah.
where does forgiveness play a role? And yeah, and I loved your take on forgiveness. It's not just saying sorry,
Oh yeah.
it's a living amends in a sense, but there's not much you can do. People are going to have,
Hmm.
and people lost. There's deep loss, it sounds like. But
Hmm.
what I'm really thinking too is, and it sounds like what's happening for you, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that the self-forgiveness, and
Hmm.
not that forgiveness doesn't let us off the hook of anything. It
Well,
just
yeah,
it keeps
that's
us away from the reactive states that a shame spiral can get. Because I could imagine just the shame, and we can get stuck in shame, and that's just like fuck it. But guilt and regret, it kind of keeps us in line, keeps us doing the things that can be supportive to us and others.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a very good point because everybody since the day that I was locked up said you have to learn to forgive yourself. You have to learn to
Yeah.
forgive, but nobody could tell me how to do that.
No.
No one could tell me how to do that. I had
It's
no
so vague,
clue.
right?
I
Yeah.
actually asked people. I was like, okay, yeah, I'd love to forgive myself, but
Yeah.
how do I keep from waking up in the middle of the night? Like
Right.
how do I keep from
Exactly.
like I had these images in my head of like my son, like, it's like raining out and my son's like staring out the window. And like every car that drives by, he's like looking to see if it's my car or something. I mean, that's not what was happening, but that's what was in my
Yeah, but
head, you
it's
know?
of course, of
And
course.
so like how do you make that go away? And I actually had a counselor again. He gave me this book. It was called Why Should I Forgive You? And it was written from the perspective of a person whose spouse cheated on them.
Hmm.
And that doesn't sound like it's parallel, but the things that were in there, um, the most important thing that I learned, there was a story that Gandhi told, and he said there was two warring religious factions, and a man killed one man that was on the enemy side, and he noticed that this kid, that the person he killed had a small child. So he brought the child to the elder of the tribe and was like, what should I do with this child? And the elder said, you need to raise that child. And this guy goes, okay, I will raise him like he's my own son. And the elder goes, no, raise him like he's that man's son. Like go against what your norms are and do it and so I kind of took away from that like just kind of like what you referred to, like my point in life now is just to do good.
Hmm.
And that may sound corny, but like I don't know anything else to do. Like I haven't had anything else that could help. I know you talk about the shame spiral. I know that if I turn to using because I'm feeling shitty one day, I know that's not going to work. I have stacks of evidence that tells me that that's not going to work.
Yeah,
That
and that's a
you know,
fuck place to be, right? It's like, damn.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I
like when
mean,
we know it's not gonna work, but you're like,
yeah.
it's so good at one
I
time.
know. I did have those stacks of evidence before, but it was easy once if you don't ever stop using, using. I'm sure you guys know it affects your frontal lobe, which is in charge of decision making. So as long as
Right.
you're using, you're physically incapable of making good decisions. So,
Yeah.
not to take any responsibility away, but you just can't do it. You just can't because
Yeah.
you're always in that mindset. Like even when you're like, I don't think I was sober for like a good like 20 years, like completely sober. Like I may not have had any drugs or alcohol in my system, but I don't think I was sober for a good 20 years,
Well, like what you're
And
saying, it's like we're so yeah that. But even in prison, you're saying sober, but not in recovery. There's a
yeah,
difference. There's
exactly.
a difference.
Exactly. So like I like could have gone on and I could have like, swept and mopped the common area and like, made sure my bed was nice every day and like just done like good inmate things, but I realized at that moment in that IOP group that I had to do something.
Yeah.
I had to make a significant change in my life or else nothing was going to get better.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you hear people say that there's no such thing as like an aha moment and stuff, but I was fortunate enough, like being away and having so much time to do self-reflection, like I can see like points in my life when things happen, like I had the advantage of that. Like I could see, okay, when I did this, this is what happened, like I'm going on a line and then this happened and then I, went off the line that I was on, and I mean, once again, prison is awful. Don't ever go to prison. But I was fortunate enough to pick up these things,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
they say like all these cliches, like, do your time, don't let your time do you and stuff like that. But I mean, they really have some truth to them,
Mm.
and it says the Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections, but nobody cares if you get rehabilitated. I could have stayed in my bed for 12 and a half
Oh,
years. I could have gotten high. I could have just played cards. I could have done a lot of things, but I found out that I needed to make changes in my life. And that was brought to me by people.
Mhm.
And this is the interesting part too to me. Like 12 steppers would say that's God doing for you what you couldn't do for yourself, and I'm not going to take that away from them. I'm not, I could let them have that one, but there are people that I ran into and there's things that I did for myself,
mhm.
it's the chain of events. If you do bad things are going to happen.
Right.
And once you start to do good, better things are going to happen. Like life still sucks,
Yeah.
but at the same time, you're able to deal with it a lot better when it
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah.
So I think, but yeah, back to like the forgiving myself thing. Like that was huge. That was huge. And like I said, I'm still gonna feel, the pain that I caused and the
Yeah.
pain that I feel is not ever gonna completely go away.
Yeah.
But I feel better when I'm doing good.
Yep.
Like when I saw the first like sales report of the first 6 months that first zine was out, I sold 86 copies, and I was like, holy crap, like 86, well, probably like 82 people that I didn't know bought my zine. And I was like, holy cow.
Yeah.
And like that like blew my mind. Like that's not, that's hardly anything. But at the same time, like at that point, I was like, holy shit. Like, and then when I get like letters or I get correspondence, like even on like Instagram, when somebody like asks for help, a lot of times too, I don't know how to react. Like I really don't. It blows my mind that like people, because I fucked up so bad in my life, and it blows my mind that people want to like use my story or like want to know what I think about things. It's
Yeah.
and that just gives me the strength and the motivation to keep on doing it. And I know that's what I have to do now. I
Mhm.
know that's what I have to do. Whether I'm going to start my job on a Monday. The catering company I was working for before I went to prison is actually letting me come back to there. So I went 12 and a half years without working, and they still want me back. So that says something, I
Wow.
think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even if I just cook for the rest of my life, like I can still help people otherwise. Like I've taken a lot of training, and I want to get involved in the field. I applied for my peer support license. I applied for my CDCA. I was a peer supporter while I was incarcerated. I ran groups and stuff like that. Like that's what I want to do. But a lot of the places now, in the program I'm in now at the halfway house, you're not permitted to drive. I don't know why, but you're not permitted to drive. So I'm fortunate enough that my sanction, I'm able to get my driver's license back. It's not like a lifetime
Mm.
suspension.
Mhm.
So in August, when I'm done with this program, I'm able to get my license, and then I'm going to try and get a job in the recovery field. But right now, I'm going to go back to cooking for the summer. But like I said, I don't have to be I don't have to be involved in the business of recovery to help people and be in recovery
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And I get that. Like even these like Instagram posts, man, like I feel like such a nerd because I'll just be like walking down the street and I'll see something. I'm like, oh my God. And I'll take out my phone. I'll start typing. Like it's going to ease up. Like once I start working, I don't have as much free time and things like that. But like even that keeps me going, you
Yeah.
know?
For sure.
And
For
then
sure.
like just everything, the music. I want to talk about music for a second. Like
Yeah.
music is such a huge part for me. Like music has played such a huge role in my recovery. Like, uh, just like not everything I like is like positive music. Like I still listen to, like Blatz where like, we're gonna fuck shit up,
There's a
like,
theme
yeah, I still
we
enjoy bands like
discussed.
that.
I was just
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
that last night in my group. I'm like, yeah, man, I don't know, because I was talking about like a tree metaphor for community, like redwood groves. It was whatever, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm
Mhm.
talking about this stuff, but here I am, old punker, walking barefoot in the forest and hugging trees, and then getting in my car and listening to Slayer on the way out. So
Yeah.
both
But
can be true.
but I think
Yeah.
there's such a valid thing because like if when it comes to like aggressive music, angry music, hateful music, it validates something in me that's calling to be seen in a healthy
Yeah,
way. And I'm tired of thinking there's good parts of me and bad parts of me, and I need to get rid of the bad parts of
it's
me.
a great point.
And then when I try to bury those bad parts of me, I'm going to drink over them.
Yep.
And so when I listen to aggressive music that's validating some, I think last week we were talking about Off With Her Heads that talks about ideation.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, oh no, that's bad to talk about wanting to off yourself, right? And it's like, well, I feel that way. Can I be honest about it and hold space for that in a healthy way rather than acting like that isn't real? And so I'll give all day validation to fucked up music, because we're all fucked up in some way. Like, let's love that shit. That's just calling for our love and attention. And that's kind of like the whole premise of the podcast we got going.
It really
I do agree with that for sure.
And I think back on the forgiveness a little bit, and what I'm hearing too, and I feel like the prerequisites or the kind of precursors, I would say, to forgiveness is empathy and compassion. It's like really seeing that we're in a fucked up place, and our actions aren't who we are, but we are responsible for our actions. And a lot of stuff that you're saying is super Buddhist. I just want to let you know that.
I've been told that.
You're talking to two Buddhists here, just like if you haven't caught.
I've been told that. People have been telling me that for a long time. They're like, "Oh, that's exactly what the Buddhists believe."
Like, I'm like, struggling, the alcohol, and fucking where it led is fucked, and that can we have some empathy and compassion for ourselves, right? And I think that's where, so we can turn that, especially for others, others that may be harmed, and it's hard when we cause the harm, right? So it begins with again, it's not dismissing, and I don't hear that you're saying it's dismissing any of your actions. It's actually you're being of service to. So maybe this won't happen for other people, out there. They can hear your story, and it could be really powerful for them.
That's what I would hope.
I know two people in my life that similar to same thing, drunk driving and same thing as you, and went to prison. Both are in recovery now. One of them does a lot of internal stuff, and they are now working. They're actually going around to schools and with the family of the person that that they killed, and they are speaking and doing a lot of service that way, and it's beautiful. The other person hasn't done a lot of internal work. They are still they're in recovery, but they still suffer. They still suffer. They're in a lot of shame, that not even around the situation, but just in general. Just everything they do is a mistake. And it's interesting. It's not a huge, when we're in that state, we're not of service to anybody. Because we can't. It's very self-absorbed. Poor me.
It's a process.
Well,
it's been years since they've done that.
So going back into back to the trauma-informed stuff, right? Where trauma keeps us stuck in the past. That that's saying that forgiveness is abandoning all hope for a better past, right?
Yeah.
And it's like trauma keeps us stuck there. And then resentment keeps us stuck in the past as well. And so we're trying to fix the past. And you said earlier, why would we even want to speak with you, right? And it's like, one, we want to understand the nature of harm. How did we get to this place? And so how can we move forward? Not just you, but all of us. Everyone involved really wants to move forward. And forgiveness... And that word forgiveness can be very complex, but really setting forth to move forward, even when our past wakes us up in the middle of the night, and there will be traumatic instances. And if we're talking about Buddhism, this is like Angulimala. Angulimala was a serial killer in the time of the Buddha, and people, he became a Buddhist monk after being a serial killer, and afterward, people wanted to kill him, and he's like, I'm a Buddhist monk now. What, you want to kill me? And the Buddha, he goes up to the Buddha and is like, don't these people know I'm a monk now, and I'm not a serial killer anymore? And the Buddha said, bear it Angulimala, that this is your karma. And so it's like, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have that karma show up of trauma, it's like, the more you bear it, the more we can move forward, not to get rid of trauma, but bear it with compassion and love and presence and care.
Embrace.
And I think that's what forgiveness is when we honor
Yeah.
the effects of past causes and with
And
love and take it with us into the future, right?
yeah, I think being empathetic, I think that's an overused word, but it's a understood word, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. Yeah.
I
It's not
couldn't,
sympathetic. It's empathetic.
yeah, I couldn't start to heal myself until I understood what I did to other people, if that
Yep.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Like
Yes.
until I understood the pain that I caused and I took it off of me, because I was hurting, but I also had, and I still work with this. I just had a conversation. I just sent a text message to somebody for something that happened about maybe like about 8 months ago, and the text message word for word was like, I didn't consider how that made you feel, and I just was worried about how I was feeling. So it's something that I still deal with, and you can't forgive yourself until you take it off of yourself too. In some way, like that sounds contradictory, but that it just worked out that way for me until I realized like everything that these people were saying about me was 100% true. Like if you read the newspaper articles and listen to the news reports about me, like well, I mean, not their opinions on me, but the stuff they were saying
Mm-hmm.
I did that.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
did have
What's that
multiple
like? What's that
OBIs.
like for you?
Oh, geez. Whew. I haven't read it all, but like, yeah, I mean, there's stuff like, there's stuff in my zine too that like my mom like read for the first time,
Uh,
and I talk about how I put hands on my wife, and I talk about what I did when I got my child endangerment charge and stuff like that. Like these are things that looking back on it now, like I can't believe that I did these things. But at the time, like I have to at the same time own that that's what I did. And I think that's why uh, people don't want to understand addiction, because if I say, well, I did that, but I was an addict, then they're like, well, you're not taking accountability for that. And I was like, no, I 100% am. I'm just stating that that's not who I am now. I'm not that person now. That's who I was then, and I was an awful person then. But I did do a lot of self work and self help, and I do reach out the best that I can and try and make people better the best that I can. And, builds me back up. It builds me back up. It's kind of really, really neat like that. Like seeing how like when you have those moments when you're like, man, 6 years ago, I wouldn't have done that. When you can have those moments, like I'll just tell you guys a quick story from prison too. There was a person and he gambled a lot. And he was pretty good at gambling. So he would win a bunch of commissary. He'd have like stacks of like tunas and honey buns and chips and stuff like that. So he asked me if I could hold on to some of his stuff, put it in my locker box. And I was like, sure. Because I didn't buy a lot of food when I was in prison. I, spent my money on like other things like, putting out zines and, stuff like that. But,
No ramen for you, only zines.
yeah, and to be honest, food's awful, but they give it to us 3 times a day, so you might as well eat it, at least
Yeah.
get out of the block and go to chow. But so I had space in my locker box, and so he needed it back one day, and he came and he got all of his stuff, and he, gambled or did whatever he did. And I was looking for a piece of mail, and I found a package of tuna in there, and I knew it wasn't mine. First thought, I could sell this for a honey bun, and I could eat a nice honey bun and be a fat kid for a
Or a
second.
honey bun.
Second thought is, this isn't mine.
Mm.
And so I walked over to the guy's cell and I knocked on the door and I was like, hey. And he's like, hey. I go, this is yours. He goes, what do you mean? And I go, this is yours. He goes, I got my shit like a week ago. I'm like, I know, but I just found this. So here. So like stuff like that, like when you can see that and you can see the changes that you make, like that's
Yeah.
part of the motivation that keeps you going in it,
Yeah.
Or like when you like can, even though some of the things I did, like I still feel guilt over, but knowing that I feel bad about it now, knowing that I know that what I was doing was wrong, like it's not cool to have somebody babysit my kid so I could go out to the bar, like that's not cool. That's not right, like, so like when you have those, when you can see that growth, then that's really when you can start making, you see the fruit of your labor and then you continue making the change.
Yeah.
Like I always said, most days the way that I feel, if I could bottle it up and like give it to somebody, like I totally would. Because some days I wake up and I feel like there's absolutely nothing that I can't do,
Mm,
and that's cool because I
mm,
never felt like that before.
yeah.
I never had that feeling before, and that's what I get from my recovery,
Beautiful, man.
and that's just awesome,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
I
think,
think having that healthy sense of regret and guilt I think is important. I think, it's good to feel those things because it has a
hmm
lot of information in there. Like the regret or yeah, these are the behaviors that I did, and we set new intentions not to do those behaviors. That's all we have. And the regret,
hmm
okay, there was harm caused. How can I make amends? And
hmm
that I think should be an ongoing thing. And when we do that, that's where we keep the shame spiral at bay. I really
yeah, and
feel.
that shame spiral turns you into a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah, there's
man.
no
Like
there's no
that's
growth
what
in
it
it.
does.
There's no
But
growth in it.
even you said that I'm a different person now, and that's like an unshaming statement too, because
hmm
the classic Brene Brown shame versus guilt is,
hmm
guilt is I made a mistake, shame is I am the mistake,
Yeah, yeah.
and and we could still have place for guilt because if we feel guilt, that means we're not sociopaths. Great, we did it.
hmm
That's a helpful thing. And
Yes,
what are we
that's
going to do
good.
with this guilt? Are we going to honor it and listen to it
hmm
and respond to it? Everything y'all are saying, I feel that
Well,
totally.
and that's one of the points of recovery is actually feeling your feelings and
Yeah.
having healthy reactions to it.
Oh my
Like
gosh.
I just was talking
Well, it should
to
be,
somebody
but I don't
else.
think it's the norm in most recovery.
Oh,
Well,
it's
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's 12 steps right there to make you feel like shit,
You
man.
said it,
But
not
like,
me.
but no, and I don't care. I mean, I do have a
I'm
lot of people
joking.
that are important to me that, use 12 steps
Yeah,
and
I know.
that's great.
That.
But,
yeah.
I'm still going to say what I think about it. But like,
Absolutely.
I was just talking to somebody once again, being able to be out and having access to my page and stuff. I was talking to somebody and they were talking about crying and they like felt bad. They're like, yeah, I cry. I'm like, then cry.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you have to feel your feelings. Like that's one of the most important things. Like, if you feel like shit, you're supposed to feel like shit. Like, I lost a friend, about 7 or 8 months ago. He, overdosed
Mm,
and, everybody was upset over it. And I was like, stop trying to not be upset. Like,
Right.
yeah.
that's not what, like, don't try and cheer each other up. Like, that you should grieve, I mean, to a certain extent, like things shouldn't ruin you, but
Mhm.
you should be able to acknowledge your feelings and work through them.
Yep.
And you can only do that with other people too, man. Like,
Yeah.
I'll go back to that. You can't do that by 100% by yourself. You have to talk to other people. Well, I have
Yeah.
to talk to other
Yeah.
people, not everybody, but that's how I do it.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's like, what addiction is it's self-regulation of emotions. You may not even know it when you're doing it, but when you have
hmm
these emotions and you don't know how to regulate them and you don't know how to talk to another person about your emotions, well, yeah, I know I can go get fucked up and that emotion will go right away, right? But
hmm
as humans, we're pack animals. We co-regulate with each other, and so when I bring up an emotion and we feel it together because we have those mirror neurons, we have emotion contagion, right?
hmm
If I
hmm
started crying right now, you may actually start crying. Why?
Oh
Because you're
yeah.
just feeling me, and that's
hmm
like where the magic happens. Is when we're
Oh yeah.
like I'm feeling fucked up, and then you look at me and you go, oh yeah, 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 that's cool. Yeah, I got you. I got you. And that's
hmm
actually like us like slowing down our system together. And that's what we're called to do in addiction recovery, whatever program it is. We just need to be with people and talk about our
hmm
feelings and regulate each other in a like accepting positive regard for whatever is present. And that's what will help us replace these addictions. What we're doing right here,
Yeah.
talking about our shit together. It's like
Exactly.
we do this together. That the opposite of addiction is connection, right?
Yeah.
Mm,
I read this interesting essay and it talked about something called the mechanism of action. I think I mentioned it a couple times in my writing, but what they did is they studied the 12 steps and they talked to people that were in 12 steps and successfully using 12 steps, and they wanted to find out what worked, like why it worked for them. And what they found was that four things in particular that the people in 12 steps said helped them weren't exclusive to 12 steps. And that was motivation, it was distraction, it was support, and it was hope. So any place you could find those four things, any activity that you could find those four things, you're in recovery. I mean, if you get it by going to 5 meetings per week, then yeah, that's great. But if you get it from joining a yoga class, or if you get it from, just doing shit like this, or, getting involved in charitable work, or like something like that, if you could find that, because you could find motivation from the people around you that are accomplishing what you want to do. You can find hope the same way. You can find support the same way. And then distraction is anything you're doing that you're not using. So that's why the court system usually recommends that people go to 90 meetings in 90 days, because for those 3 months you're doing something that you're not going out to the bar, or going to the trap house, or going wherever you used to go. So I think that was another key thing that I learned in my journey was those things, because when you're told that there's only one route to recovery, and then you start to question that, you have to take the extra step and not only question it, but find out what those other ways are. Like you can't use I hate AA as a crutch to not get into recovery. And I was guilty of that. I was 100% guilty of that. And it's very common. So yeah, that's the thing. It's all about accountability. It's about self-awareness. It's huge. And then action, that's what it is.
The community, I think, is the huge thing, and I do feel like that's where 12 Step has the corner mark.
Oh yeah.
On is community, is fellowship, and because I feel like for not just us that suffer from addiction, but in general, a sense of belonging, right? We're so severed from a sense of belonging, and just our stories being normalized, our experience being normalized. We're like, oh, okay, there's a sense of belonging in there, right? And then the Buddhist tradition, we take refuge in Sangha, which is community, and it's rumored in the rumored the Buddha said, or in the teachings, that Sangha is the most important refuge to take, for multiple reasons. And I do feel like belonging is a huge part of it, and with that being said, and I feel like, being in the prison, like what a sense of not belonging, it's like,
God, man.
it's like so fucked. So I'm curious of how did you find that belonging when you're not finding that in 12 Step really in the beginning? Did you have a sense?
Just the punk rock DIY.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
I made my belonging. I wrote these zines. I talked to people. I created. I started running programs based off of my writing. I had a program called Recovery for All, which we went through. It was a 10-week program that people could take, and we went through the workbook. We went through all 10 steps that are in my workbook. I couldn't call it drunk punk because punk has a different meaning when you're in prison. So would have gotten a whole different group of guys in there. But that would have been pretty popular. But and that's what I did, and that's the reason why it's drunk punk, because it's people that are into punk rock. It's not just music that you listen to. It's who you are.
Yeah.
And so my recovery is, if something wasn't there now, like I do it. Like I need to stay in my recovery. I don't like 12 steps, so I'm going to start right now. I have it tentatively started for a monthly meeting at this DIY club that's in Cleveland.
Nice.
So I'm going to start that, and I think that that's going to get bigger because, like I said, I know and I just talked to one of the owners of the place this morning. I walked over there when I was walking around Cleveland, and he's 9 years sober. He owns a club, and he's 9 years sober. So I was like, well, that's that's awesome. So I know that he's going to back me on that now. You know what I'm saying? So and I know that there's going to be other people that are going to get involved in it, and I know that that's going to be my little tribe that I have. So I think what you were saying about community, like there's like 10 number ones when it comes to recovery, but that's definitely one of them. Like you need to find your tribe. You need to find your group of people. I've got a friend that's very close to me that's out in California, and they definitely found their their tribe. Like they have, the iPhone trackers on like each other's phones, so they know if somebody's going to a place that they shouldn't go to, and they could like call them
Wow.
up and be like, what's
Accountability.
up? Yeah, and I think that's awesome. I was
Yeah.
finding out all this stuff because sobriety out in the real world was still like foreign to me.
Sure,
Like
man. Yeah.
going to shows and not drinking and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like what? But then like finding out that that happens and there are people that do that, like that was a huge thing, man. And
Yeah.
that was a huge thing to motivate me and to show me that it can be done. And now, like I said, I've been out for like a month and I'm talking about having a speaking engagement out in San Francisco. I want to, I'll put that out there too. If anybody wants me to come to their town and talk about drugs and
Yeah.
alcohol and criminal justice and recovery and stuff, I'll be more than happy to. If you set it up at any venue, I will get there the best that I can if I'm able to. You don't have to give
We'll put
me,
that in the notes, the show
yeah,
notes.
maybe give me a place to sleep, but other than that, like
Yeah, man.
I will get there the best that I can,
Well, if
because
you're in Santa
that's
Cruz, or
what
if
I
you're in
want to
San
do.
Francisco, you got to come to Santa Cruz. We're about an hour away from Santa Cruz.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
The person I was referring to is out in the Bay Area.
Yeah, that's
So,
what you're
yeah.
saying. And like what you're talking about is building your own community when nothing else is really jiving. It's such the punk way, and it's like the
Hmm.
DIY. It's like both me and Mikey. I've started my own little kind of offset of recovery Buddhism kind of stuff that is more open and I think palatable for people. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was like I wasn't really finding my community here in Santa Cruz. When it comes to spirituality in general, it can get really wooey and like, wow,
Yeah.
and we,
Yeah, I know about Santa Cruz. Yeah.
yeah. So we
Hmm.
created our own, right? And that's cool. Not to we're better than anybody kind of thing, but just to, be more inclusive in another way, more
Hmm.
attractive to people that may never like. That's what I love about this kind of stuff. Like what you're doing is that, people that don't find 12 step, like, or whatever it is, or even for me, like different spirituality stuff, like I like connecting with people that are the most unlikely to find this, right?
Yeah.
And just
Hmm.
like, oh, that looks like
Oh,
something I just
yeah.
always thought maybe I wanted to do that, but every time I saw a group or something, it just did not look like I wanted to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
And they're saying this, God, this, that, or whatever it is,
Hmm.
so more inclusive, I think.
Yeah, people actually approached me on a couple separate times about, the title. You shouldn't put the getting sober without God's or masters. You would appeal to more people that way. And I'm like, well, no, they have their shit.
They
Like this is for people
exactly.
that don't have that, like
Yeah.
I don't want, it's not that I don't want the people that, to have a strong sense of faith. Like it's not that I don't want them, but this is not for them kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I think that goes along with the punk, ethos too, is that, like this is our stuff, like,
Yeah.
I don't want to sound exclusive, but at the same
No, yeah,
time,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's plenty of programs for people that believe in God
Yeah.
to go to. This is
Totally.
for people, and if the people that believe in God want to come by and like hang out, that's great too. That's
And the
great too.
funny
Like
thing
I
is
said,
that
I
they
know.
will, and they do. It's awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
I think it's great. I'm like,
that's
it's great. Yes, everybody,
yeah,
let's do it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I when I did my Recovery for All group, the first one I did, I put out a flyer to hang out around the prison. I did the Recovery for All as RFA, and I did like the JFA logo.
Oh,
Of
nice.
course, no one picked up on that in Grafton Correctional, but I kind of got a little smile off of
Joe,
that,
that was Joe's first show, right? It was
First
Really?
JFA.
show in
Yeah.
84.
Awesome.
84.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
JFA
That's
and the
good.
Faction. I don't know if you ever heard the Faction, the Stevie
Yes.
Alvaro's band.
Yes.
It's fucking
Yeah,
so good. So good.
they reissue an album like every month. It
Yeah,
seems like I've seen
totally.
that advertised. Yeah.
So
So,
as we're getting into the punk rock talk, let's get more into punk rock talk. Is that okay?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine with me,
Anyway,
man.
enough of this
I
Because
like,
self-help stuff.
yeah.
yeah.
But
Yada
I think
yada.
it still has like a self-helpy
It
thing
does. It
because
does.
what you do on your social media is like I think what brought us together somehow
Hmm.
about like and we've brought it up in another episode of here about lyrics you've brought up in your like Instagram posts that mean something to you.
Hmm.
I was wondering if I could just like welcome in a few, and maybe you could
Yeah,
tell us what
sure.
you meant by it.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
one that it was weird because I teach retreats, and one lyric you wrote at the end of a meditation retreat I was in. It's totally silent and all of this and that. After the retreat, when we broke silence, one of the students came up to me and started talking to me about my Screeching Weasel tattoo. And you
Yeah.
put that lyric on Instagram for I wrote Holding Caulfield, that song
Oh
from
yeah, yeah,
how to
yeah. I
irritate people, how to
actually,
make enemies and
yeah,
irritate people. And
yeah.
that song is talk about forgiveness. That song
Hmm.
is such a powerful song. And it's not a well-known song by Screeching
Oh.
Weasel, but there's that line that you highlighted, don't tell me that things don't get better because sometimes they do. And it's almost
Hmm.
like what we were harping at before about, forgiveness moving forward. But
Hmm.
I don't want to give you my ideas about it, but you know, that one song, I wrote Holding Caulfield, you posted about it. Don't tell me that things don't get better because sometimes they do. Could you tell me some about that?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's. I could apply that to almost every day, because I was just talking to somebody today about all the things that are going on with my life now, and I was like, a month ago I was in prison. You know, like it's crazy. Once you put in the work and you have the desire and you do it, like you can accomplish anything. So not that feeling crappy and everybody's situation is by choice, because I don't believe that. Like I do believe that to some extent we're a product of our environment, but at the same time, man, like things can always get better. And that's been a driving force. Like I mean, once again, I was put in prison for what I did, but there was second night in prison, I was sleeping on the floor of the Cleveland City jail with my head next to the metal toilet as someone's pissing, you know. And now, like, I get out of prison 12 and a half later and I throw on my Ramones shirt and I'm like, like it's just everything. And when you lose something and you get something back, whether it's that particular thing in some way, shape, or form or something new, you just appreciate everything so much more.
Mhm.
So, hold on one second. Oh, I'm getting a low battery.
Oh no.
I know. That's okay. It's not a big deal. I could plug
Well,
in. Got my charger right here.
you know, when it comes to like these, do you want to go into
No, I'm
you're
good.
doing
I
things?
got it.
Um, these these lyrics that you're posting, I can pick
Yeah.
out a bunch from what you said, but do you have any off the top of your head? Any of those songs that mean something to you? That because it kind of seems
Well,
like a thing that you're into
well,
is like
and
picking
that
out these lyrics and picking out these songs that mean something.
that's the thing that we were talking about earlier too about being involved in your recovery. Like I do this in my free time. Like even when I was in prison, I was doing this. I was listening to music and picking out songs. It's not just like something, sometimes it is something hits me like right then and there, but a lot of it is like preparation. Like I'll have a list of songs that have a lyric and I'll write the lyric out and then I'll pick out how I'm feeling that day. So like today I did the song One Day by Fucked Up.
Hmm.
And Fucked Up, I just recently got into them. I must have missed the bus on that, but they're a pretty awesome band. And yeah, it was one day it's talking about how, you're being stagnant like in your life. I can't think of the exact lyric that I used.
Yeah.
But then I also used I was walking around Cleveland and I heard Pinhead Gunpowder and it was the end of Beastly Bit where it's talking about how I wish that you were by my side to help and support me and stuff like that. And I was like, how does that not have to deal with recovery? And it's funny that you brought up Screeching Weasel too because like I like pop punk. There's a lot of dumb pop punk. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But Screeching Weasel was like the enigma of it all because like every third song had like some significant meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't about a girl or about like shopping at Kmart or something like that. It was about like actual like deep things. Like one of my favorite songs is Every Night by them.
Yeah.
And that's basically the fourth step in 12 steps. They're just making a list of all the things that he's done and how he feels bad about them. And so there 15 is another band that I'm really hella into and like I could make a whole page just using 15 songs, just about like being good and not being a jerk and like that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, shoot, I wish I could think of more stuff off the top of my head. But I hold on one second, actually.
Hmm.
I'll get something that'll help me. This is my brain right here. Part of it at least. It's got
Yeah,
like
there you
just
go.
everything that I write down
Get the
and stuff.
notebook. Yeah.
So yeah, there's like I have them actually all like numbered, like the order I want to do them in and stuff like that. But like I did 9 a.m. every day by O Pioneers. I don't know if you guys are into them or not, but they're another band where like every song is just about like get up and stop feeling sorry for yourself and things like that. You know, like 9 a.m. every day is about the alarm going off and he doesn't want to get out of bed, and then it's like get up, and it's just like yeah, things like that just get you going, man. And if it wasn't for music, like I wouldn't have any of this. I wouldn't have any of this. Like I don't understand how music isn't the most important thing in everybody's life. Like it blows my mind when I meet somebody. They're like, "Yeah, I kind of listen to music." Like, what are you talking about? You know, like I couldn't live without this stuff. So, and that's one of the cool things too now about being out of prison is there's songs that I haven't heard that weren't available to me. Like I didn't hear Fugazi for 12 and a half years. I didn't hear,
Yeah.
you know, so it's like crazy things like that. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm giving you what you want with this question because I'm kind of like all over the place now because it's such a huge topic. But when I found out, like even songs like Ramones songs, like Jesus, the Ramones, but like even Ramones songs, like I could pull something from a Ramones song that I could relate to recovery, you know.
Oh
Or
yeah.
there's a song they used a couple times by the Grumpies, who are a great band,
Hmm.
or they were a great band, but it's about like a breakup, and the lyric is my spine's not strong enough for you, and I related that to addiction now because you know something's bad for you, but you can't say no to it, you know. So it's a lot about perspective too, you know. Like I wrote Holden Caulfield, you know, you could turn that about recovery, you could turn that about, you know, you broke up with a significant other. Same thing with Pep Talk by the Descendants. That's another one I've used a couple times. You know, like it's not the end of the world because your baby left you. Like, yeah, that's you
So
know
good.
that's
So good.
recovery too. You know, like you need that, and it
Yep.
and it all start. What I'd like to do is I would like to have more interaction with the people that follow. I know that Instagram isn't really about that. Like most of the people are in there for likes and like backs and follows backs and stuff like that. But I'd like to have other people like recommend songs or say songs that they, you know, meant a lot to them. Because we all have those songs, man. We all have those songs that got us through the tough times, you know. And
Hmm.
you know, I'd like to have a more interaction with the people that follow that page. But that'll come. That'll come. But yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about music forever.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, I do appreciate you putting that out into the world, right? And it's just the
Hmm.
social media world. And I'll see a post, I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" Some, like
Hmm.
I think what we used one episode, we used one of yours, and I just read the post, and it was
Hmm.
"Left Alone." My band used to
Okay.
play with "Left Alone" all the time, and
Really?
yeah, 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 and like
Yeah. They're,
it was something about drinking or something, something very
hmm.
obvious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually had a project that it's kind of on the back burner now, but it's called Music Saves, and I took a Operation Ivy song, I took a Jawbreaker song, I think there was an FYP song in there, but I took like 6 songs and I printed out lyrics and I sent them out to people, just addresses I got from contact from my zines and like stuff like that. And I said, write down, like not listening to the song, because you might not like the song, but read these lyrics and write down what it means to you.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to do was take everybody's responses, and I did. Like I have the manuscript somewhere. I take everybody's responses and publish that, and have like a reader submitted zine just about motivation that you can get from song lyrics,
That's awesome.
basically. So like one of them was "Kiss the Bottle" by Jawbreaker. That's fairly obvious. Every line in that is about addiction and drinking and stuff like that. But like there's "I Got No" by Operation Ivy. Like when you're drowning, giving up hope, you're living for smoking dope. Like, you know, who can't relate to that? You know, even if you don't smoke dope, like I mean, there's something that's, you know, causing you to not accomplish things in your life that you want to, you know. So I got that all together, and some people were really, you know, were really into it. Some people were into it, but they didn't want to be in it and stuff. But I got enough to put out a zine, so hopefully that could come out too. But yeah, so I mean that's basically the found Drunk Punk is the DIY create your own uh, create your own scene, making things better for other people, thinking about things other than yourself, which that's what punk rock is about. What I thought was punk rock back then, just getting fucked up, and that's not what punk rock is. But I was a kid, 15-year-old kid. That's the appeal of it. But at the same time, like it's also about the music. Like it heals. It heals you. It could make things better. It could make you see something that you never saw before. We all have been through that. Like I said, whether it's through a breakup, whether it's just having a shitty day, even when you're out and you are using, like everybody had the song that they would hear when they were at the bar where they buy shots and everybody would do it, whether it's Ace of Spades by Motorhead or like something else, like we all had that song. So like we all could relate emotions to music. And that's one of the most important parts of what I try and do, but do it in a positive way.
Fuck yeah.
hmm
Fuck yeah.
So yeah,
So,
no, go ahead with what you're going to say.
I was going to start wrapping up, but
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
fine.
Well, I don't
That's
know.
fine.
Anything left over, Joe?
No, no,
Anybody?
no, I'm good. I'm good. It was
You
great
got it?
talking to you guys. I
It's
really
been a
appreciate this.
great conversation. Good to get to know you, and I look forward to connecting more. I think there's
Oh yeah.
so many good conversations here, and I love these, meeting new people in this realm. That so many similarities as far as like likes
hmm
and views on mental health and recovery. That it can be so isolating sometimes when you don't relate to everything that's going on and feel like feel alone, right? So thanks for normalizing some of when the take on recovery and stuff like that. So thank you,
Yeah,
appreciate.
real quick, before we go here, the song that spawned this all was the version of "All We Got Is Each Other" by Japanther. And
Okay.
I
Oh,
love and respect you, and I know you're going to do your best. And all we
Yeah.
got is each other, and that's the foundation of my recovery. I was going to have it read in the beginning of the lyrics to it read in the beginning of the meetings, like they do at 12-step meetings. But I was like, no, that's a little too much. I don't want to make somebody stand up and read a Japanther song.
yeah.
But yeah,
I got into a really weird fight with the drummer from Japanther in
really.
Pensacola, outside of Sluggos in Pensacola. It was
Hmm.
rough.
Lagos.
Yeah,
Physical
I was
fight or just verbal?
physical.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. It was so
I
yeah.
can't see you fighting, Mikey.
What?
I couldn't see you fighting. You're such a
Yeah,
sweetheart. It's like, right. Yeah.
well, it's amazing what the
That's
topics we
actually what he
bring
probably
Yeah,
up
looks
talk
like when
yeah,
about
he's
here.
fighting.
true.
Yeah. No, like they played two songs and got off stage, and I got mad because I was very much intoxicated, and then followed them out the back door and just started choking their drummer because they said
Shit.
something about Pensacola, and he had this like box cutter, and then he started coming at me with the box cutter, and I was like,
Oh,
oh,
Whoa.
okay,
jeez.
okay,
That
bye.
escalated quickly.
Yeah, well, I was choking him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Don't fuck
sorry
with
about that.
don't fuck with that
My bad,
Pensacola
drummer from
pride, bro.
Japanther.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, if you're out there, he's sorry.
my bad.
It's
Yeah.
interesting
My
you're
bad.
talking about like these lyrics, and it's all pop punk lyrics, and I'm down, but mine are just all hardcore. Like I'm like more of the hardcore vein. Like, and what keeps coming to my mind is I just went and saw Refuse, and they have one song. It's
Okay.
like it's not okay to pretend everything's all right, and that's the whole lyric through the whole song. I'm like, yes,
Oh wow.
so good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good.
like shit like that.
That's
It's like,
really good.
damn, yeah, yeah.
Well, drop a line to the page and you can make a post or whatever. Yeah,
All right.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
sure.
And
For
it'd be
sure.
good to, we'll put that in the liner or in liner. I say liner
Yeah,
notes,
let's
hmm
liner
but like
notes.
all those kind of things. But what are some of the ways that, it sounds like there's so much outreach that you do. So what are some of the ways that people can connect with you, or if you have any resources for people that might be struggling, suffering? And you did one thing on, you mentioned in the last podcast that I listened to, with the interview with you, but I loved there was a helpline for people that are in active
Oh yeah, yeah,
addiction. Like if they're gonna
yeah.
be doing their thing, they can stay on the phone with
Hmm.
somebody, and if it goes blank, they help them out.
Yes.
You know, they
Yeah, that's the White Butterfly organization. It's
white
a
butterfly.
nonprofit in the Cleveland area. I'll tell you the background on them. The woman who started it, she's a recovering addict, and she on her own before any of this got started, she would take like little trial size like toothpaste and like deodorant and stuff and put them in baggies along with a little note card that had like numbers for rehab facilities. And she would go to the places, the public places that she used to get high, like the bathroom at KFC over on College Park and like stuff like that, and tie them to the doorknobs there. And eventually she heard places that were recovery facilities were calling her and like, yeah, this person just walked in there and had one of your cards. And so she ended up writing a grant proposal and she became, not nonprofit status. And one of the things they do is they have an outreach line where if somebody's using by themselves, they could call the line and somebody will stay on the line with you to make sure that you're, safe when you're using. Because safe using is always better than unsafe
Yeah,
using.
exactly.
Sure.
First and foremost.
White butterfly. It is.
Yeah, it's called the White Butterfly Organization. I don't know if you guys are probably familiar with the Sidewalk Project.
Yep,
Like they do a lot of harm
down in
harm
LA.
reduction.
Hmm.
And just any like needle exchange that's around there in every city. Just get involved, man, because everybody knows somebody that's been touched by addiction, and affected by addiction. Like it's not a uncommon thing anymore. It's like a 6 degree of separation thing. Like if you're not an addict, you know somebody that's an addict, you know somebody who overdosed or like whatever. And the only way that we're going to get through this is by change. Like we can't keep doing the things that we were doing. I say it in every book. We can't solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions. Like AA, the big book was written in 1938. Like
Hmm.
doesn't make sense to me. You know, like you wouldn't start a treatment for cancer that was done 85 years ago or like whatever. Most likely, we didn't know things then, and it's not their fault. You just didn't know. You didn't have the technology, neuroscans, and things like that. So yeah, just get involved, help each other. Anybody can reach me. The best way to reach me is the Instagram page. If I can, I will get zines out to you. I don't care. Yeah, I don't do. It is a profit-driven thing, but I don't do it for the profit. So if I could send them out to you, and if I'm able to give them to you for free, I'm more than happy to do that. And just reach out if you need help. Ask. And if I don't help you, I'll try and find somebody to help you. Maybe somebody on the page will help you. There's people that have said that stopped by and read one of the posts and said, "Man, I really needed this today." Or like somebody will be like, "I'm checking into detox tomorrow. Do you have any advice?" And like real life shit. And I never thought I'd be in a position to help people, but the way that things work, that's where I'm at now, and that's what I want to do. So I thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. I think
Thanks
what
for
you guys
taking
are
time.
doing is great. Yeah, it's awesome. It's just awesome all around. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks
No
for reaching
problem.
out. I think it's synchronicity that we just end up together and having this conversation that it's just like,
Hmm.
we're along for the ride, and it's a wonderful ride to be on together. So thanks for
Yeah, no problem.
reaching out. Yeah.
No problem. Thank you guys. Thank you both. Keep on doing what you're doing. If I could do anything, reach out to me, and I'll do the same for you guys too, for sure.
All right, hit
All
me up
right.
when you're in Cali, bruh.
I will. I plan on coming there as soon as I'm done with this
No one
program and
says
I'm able to
Cali either.
travel. Yeah. As soon as I'm able to travel, that's one of the first places I plan on hitting.
All
So
right.
yeah,
Cool.
for sure, for
All
sure.
right. All right.
All right,
So
guys.
we're still getting used to saying you got to tell us how we do. We're still getting used to saying all the like podcast stuff. So
Okay.
I think this is the end of the podcast. If you made it this far, you must follow and subscribe and like and comment.
Do
Right?
all the
That's
things.
what
Okay.
you
Yeah.
say, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. That
Yeah.
Like,
sounds about right.
subscribe, review, do what you do.
I fucking nailed it.
Mm,
You
All right.
nailed
you
it.
did. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, guys.
All right.